Teen returning a lost purse doesn't know who he's dealing with. When Emit decided to get a job at the grocery store, he'd only wanted to support his grandma. He lived with two younger siblings under his grandma's watchful eye after his parents passed away in a freak accident. Life hadn't always been easy, but his grandma made everything hurt less. But trouble came knocking as he finished high school. He had no clue that his big break was right around the corner. Emit had always been an independent kid. His grandma instilled in him the importance of hard work, respect, autonomy, and having a giving heart. Even in his younger years, he already embodied these essential virtues, using them to forge a life for himself. No one had any idea of what they'd do to his life in the future. Emit graduated high school with a magnificent GPA that would land him in any college he desired. But the issue was his family didn't have enough funds to sustain a college fee. But Emit had never been one to give up so easily. He immediately set to work, searching for different ways that would allow him to attend college without necessarily putting more pressure on his grandma. His wish would soon be answered. A few months had passed since Emit started looking for ways to generate cash for his college fees. He discovered that he could apply for several scholarships, each of which offered various benefits. The only problem was that qualifying for these scholarships was complicated. And even though Emit was doing everything to secure one of them, things weren't looking up for him. This would change one day. Emit was working as a cashier at a grocery store when it happened. He'd taken the job because he wanted to help his grandma, who was working as a nurse then. Seeing her break her back for him and his siblings broke his heart. He'd do anything to lessen her burden. If only he knew that their lives were about to change forever. The day it happened began as any other. After a quick search of the internet to look for new scholarships, Emit reported to work and started his shift. The day was going on well when a dark-haired woman walked up to the register to get Emit to ring her goods up. He didn't think much of the lady as she smiled and paid for her valuables. But she wouldn't be gone for half an hour before he realized something was terribly wrong. Emit rung the woman's goods and bade her good day. He continued working, as usual, only to notice something peculiar next to his station. The item in question was a green handbag. It was expensive looking, with beautiful leather and golden ornaments. Emit didn't pick it up at first, thinking that maybe a customer had placed it there to go back for something in the aisles. But as the minutes counted, he knew whoever left it was no longer in the store. Emit reached over for the bag, debating whether he should check inside. But seeing that whoever left it was already gone, he knew he'd have to search for any form of identification within it. Maybe it would help him trace the owner. Emit took a deep breath, hoping the bag didn't contain anything malicious that would put his and the lives of everyone in the store in danger. But his mouth fell open when he undid the zipper and looked inside. Stacks of cash stared back at Emit. The bills were strictly hundreds, stuffed against each other and wrapped tightly with rubber bands. There had to be hundreds of thousands of them. Emit's throat ran dry as his life's troubles suddenly began solving themselves. He saw himself clearing his college fees, buying a car, and getting his grandma and siblings presents. He thought about investing the money or starting a business. But as his mind ran wild and his hands grew wet with sweat, one thought raised his brain. Emit had many problems that the massive sum before him could solve. But he thought about whoever forgot the bag at the counter and how worried they must have been. He knew he had to trace them. Taking the bag to the office during his lunch break, Emit dug into the cash, luckily finding 3 credit cards belonging to the same person. Could he find her in their bustling city? With the cards in hand, Emit did a simple Google search of the owner's name. He found her social network accounts and, after a few digging, discovered where she might be staying. Emit got into the first bus he saw, heading to the neighborhood he suspected the bag's owner lived. He could only imagine what hell she was going through right now. If only he knew who he was dealing with. It didn't take long for Emit to reach the neighborhood he was searching for. It was already evening, and he knew he needed to be fast, or nightfall would find him still looking for the bag's owner. He asked around a few houses for the woman's address, saying she forgot something at the store he worked in and he wanted to give it back. One of the woman's neighbors pointed him to where she lived. The house was a beautiful mini mansion with an exotic car parked in its driveway. Emit didn't waste any time. He hurried to the door and pushed the doorbell. A minute passed, and a woman opened the door for him. But it wasn't the same woman in the social media accounts he'd used to get here. He asked her if he could talk to Danny Hernandez, and the woman invited him in. It was then that the bag's owner stepped out. Emit recognized her right away. Emit remembered the woman instantly, seeing that she still had the same clothes from when she came to the store. But she looked distraught as if she'd been crying. He offered her the bag, telling her everything he'd been through to get it to her. The woman couldn't believe it. She'd been searching throughout the day, trying to retrace her steps so she could find the bag. Her identity and reward would leave Emit speechless. The woman was a high-ranking official for a non-governmental organization specializing in education. She offered Emit $2,000 on the spot and, after hearing how he struggled to get to college, recommended and vouched for him to get a hefty scholarship from her organization. The gesture robbed Emit of all his words, and for a few days, he and his family couldn't believe what was happening. He'd only wanted to do the right thing, and now the universe had repaid him in ways he couldn't explain.